Dave Briggs is many things, right? Covered the Olympics, NHL, NASCAR for NBC Sports. Been a CNN co-host. Covered March Madness for Yahoo. Co-host of Fox and Friends Weekend with another Westport icon, Allison Camerata. Now he and Allison co-host a great podcast called Sanity on Spotify and every other platform. And Dave is also one of the most interesting people I know in the world. He keeps me on my toes like nobody else. I have no idea what's ever going to come out of his mouth.
Neither do I.
So the first question is, who is Dave Briggs?
God, is that a great question. At 48 years old, I'm still trying to answer that question. And when you read that resume, it kind of baffles me, Dan, because it's like most people go, how can you work at Fox and CNN? How can you work at NBC Sports and Yahoo Finance? And how can you... And really, I've been driven for 48 years by intellectual curiosity. Now, maybe a little bit of adult ADHD in there because I can't stay focused and stay grounded in one thing for very long. But I think Dave Briggs is ultimately a storyteller, a communicator, and someone who's, I don't know if it's sadly, but someone who's still searching for the answer to that question. I hope some others out there in the audience are as well. Because sometimes you feel like you have to figure that answer out. I talk to college kids all the time that say, what should I do right now? And I say, you should do a lot, fail at a lot, do a lot of things, figure it out. Don't just sit in one lane and rot for the next 30 years. So hopefully soon I can answer that question, though.
And I'm still looking, and I got some years on you. But you're doing stuff now that, you know, when you started out in news in Oklahoma and Boston, you know, these jobs didn't exist.
No, and now, listen, I mean, it's unfortunate to see really the death of traditional media because we know it was going to suffer a slow decline. Instead, it really went off a cliff in the last couple of years, and that's for a wide variety of reasons. I think the media platforms share some blame, but the audience moved. COVID moved us all to our phones and to social media. And while it seems exciting on the outside, hosting a podcast, and it is because you're building the plane, not just flying it, which is really fun because you're building a small business, it is terrifying as well. For someone who has anxiety, you're doing it with no real support, and that's the advantage of working at a CNN or a Fox or an NBC as I have. You have that financial stability and benefits and things of that nature. So it may look like it's all fun and games and it's awesome being able to have the freedom to say what you want. It is a very difficult space.
But you can also, you're doing it on your own terms. I mean, you're dropping F-bombs. You know,
Sorry about that.
You're getting guests that you want to talk to, not that people are imposing on you.
We're not just getting guests that we want, but we're having conversations that we want. And some of that is fun, and some of that is about their personality or we always ask every guest for their dose of sanity, and it's always a very different answer. But I mean, the conversations that really move me the most are people that are actually committed to, you know, the word, I guess, sanity, quite frankly. I mean, like Colorado Congressman Jason Crow, who some think could be a presidential candidate. People that are Don Bacon from Nebraska, who sadly is retiring from Congress because he had the audacity to speak out against President Trump. People that actually have passion, that represent their core values. We've had some really great conversations, whether it be, you know, James Comey, the congressman that I mentioned. And I really do enjoy being the F-bombs are part of who I am, and having fun and having opinions in both directions is what I enjoy as well. I mean, I'll be honest, I get blasted myself for saying Trump had a really good week a week ago, but I will pivot to the other side in a second because truly I am not a single issue, you know, I'm not a tribal guy, and I think most of us aren't.
How do you get these dudes? You must have you and Allison have a great Rolodex, to use an outdated term.
I will say the biggest advantage to my wacky resume is every person that I reach out to can find a part of it to relate to. So if I'm reaching out to a Democrat, I'm a former CNN anchor. If I'm reaching out to a Republican, I typically lead with, I'm a former Fox News anchor. I have a good Rolodex from my years in TV, but most of these guests, save for James Comey, who came from the library, quite frankly, are relationships that I'm developing now. And I think I'm able to because of trust, because people trust me. And I think that's the one thing that I've developed over 25 years is people can trust that I'm not here to make them look bad. I'm not here to be a flamethrower. So that is, I think, the value that I cherish in being able to reach out to new people all the time, and they trust that it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, you make them feel at home. You get to their essence. You really have great conversations. Who would you love to get? Who's your big get?
Boy, is that an interesting question. At the moment, I am okay. I know that a lot of people out there probably think Elon Musk is a monster, but at the moment he tops my list, and that is because of the things he said in the last 3 days. And I genuinely don't think he's saying this because President Trump is taking away his EV subsidies, but he has said repeatedly in the last couple of days he wants an independent third party. He wants to fund it. He clearly would not be the right face of it, but he clearly would be the right bank account to roll it. I would really like to see if he means it and what the values would be of that third independent party, because right now, Dan, I think it's needed more than ever. And I think people would have to plug their nose a little bit to some of the things Elon has done, namely cutting USA ID and things of that nature. But if he means it, and if he really wants to put money behind it, that's the person I'd love to have a conversation with right now. But that could change in 2 days.
So what does it mean for an American third party to be bankrolled by a South African?
Yeah, there's a lot of complications, not just by a naturalized citizen from South Africa, but someone that put $250 million behind President Trump. So there'd be a lot of people that would be very uncomfortable with what he did. I think he's the sole reason that put President Trump in office. And I think he's also made some really difficult cuts to the federal government that have had real world implications that he didn't really understand, as bright as he is. But if we're going to do this in America, if we really mean it, we're going to have to just take on some people and some voices that we don't agree with. But I guess that's my whole point in this thing is we're not going to agree on every single issue. And so we're going to have to plug our nose or cover our ears to some of the things people may have done or said in their past in order to carve out a better path. And quite frankly, I may be putting the horse before the cart before the horse, but I think we may see that in Westport here very, very soon.
You are. I was going to.
That's a little tease, everybody.
I was going to segue into Westport, but that's a good segue. You want to expand on that?
Sure. I do think, quite frankly, a lot of people came to me, and you're one of them, and said, "Oh, I heard you're running for selectman," and I never explored that. I begged my wife Brandy to run many, many times because I think she'd be terrific.
And she's on the RTM.
And she has been committed to this town from day one, unlike me, who only recently became committed. So I think she'd be an outstanding leader of this town, but she's not interested. And I had people on both sides of the aisle reach out to me and encourage me to run, which was very interesting. People I thought were far the right or far to the left. And I would love to do that at some point in my life, without a doubt, 100%. I would love to lead this town. Now is not the moment. I'm trying to build some other things, but I think we are going to elect an independent here very, very soon as selectman. And quite frankly, that makes a lot of sense. If you're leading our town, we shouldn't be focused on national political issues, but the things that matter here in Westport. And that really got to cut out most of those national issues. Most of them are totally inconsequential in making Westport a better town.
So what matters to Westport?
Well, right now, obviously, it's about how we grow as a town. I know a lot of people focus on issues like, well, you didn't improve traffic. Well, we are what we are. We can't widen the roads in this town. We can't change that, but we can continue to make this town better. And some of that involves growing, and there will be growing pains. And I think it really comes down to let's find common ground. The downside of this town exploding so much is traffic, but think of the upside. Like I think there could be a book written by Dan at some point, how COVID rebuilt Westport. I mean, you and I walked down that main street early in COVID, and it was a depressing look. Stores boarded up. I think it was 30% empty stores.
It was like the last picture show.
Oh, it was depressing. And you walk down that street today, and it is alive and it is vibrant. Our home values have exploded. So there's so many benefits. We are sitting in one of the benefits right now of this town, which is the library. People are going to have to parking is a big issue in this town. Look, we may lose some things, we may give up some things, but we need more parking. We might need a parking structure behind Main Street. I just wish people were willing to make bold decisions. I mean, I understand that, and you may be on the other side of this issue, that people didn't want to give up their public garden. Well, that's not how it works in most cities in the country. You don't get to have public land that you can tell everyone else not to come into, in particular in the name of a new school. So I'm looking for a leader that is willing to make difficult decisions, even if it comes with angering half the town.
You sound like somebody who has been here forever, but somebody who is also looking at Westport with fresh eyes.
I think I'm kind of in the middle, right? Like a lot of people, I like our second selectman right now, Andrew Moore. She's a true townie, right? Because she's been here forever. Chris Tate, and so people, yourself, a townie. I'm kind of in the middle because I've been here since 2008. So I feel like most of the important moments of my life have come here in Westport, and this is home now. And it took a long time for me to say that because we lived in Boston, I lived in Tulsa, I lived in Oklahoma. And I always
Born and bred in Colorado.
And I always said home was, if someone asked me where I was from, in that journey, I always said Denver. I always said Colorado, no matter where I lived. And even when I first lived here, I said that. But now it really feels like this is my home. This is what I live. And this is what I care about. And part of that is because I, one, saw the impact my wife was able to have in this town. But two, when you're in national news and sports and finance for so long, and I wasn't attached to this town, and then again, a benefit of COVID, it really woke me up in COVID that I hadn't connected with this town and done anything meaningful here. And so that really is a lot of my focus right now.
So is there one moment when you said, this is my town, or was it a little more gradual?
I think it was really gradual, but early on, and I hate to keep bringing up the COVID, but I built an Instagram series for Westport Magazine and Motley Media, and I called it Connecting Connecticut, and it really kind of was like, wow, there are fascinating, interesting, compelling figures all over my town and our neighboring towns, and that was kind of a gradual process. But then, and I don't mean to suck up to the host here, but it was my connection with you and 06880 that kind of was the next evolution in this step. And we do a lot of things together on social media, and I really enjoy it. And I really think we're just beginning, to be honest. I hope you agree with that. I think we really, every time we do something live, people really seem to appreciate it. And I think we can really bring a lot of things, shine a light on some things that don't get it.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, I learn something from you every time we talk. So, the
Likewise,
guy,
by the way.
cool. So the guy, the little alien comes down and lands on your property on High Point Road and says, what is Westport? How do you describe it to him or her or it?
Boy, it's a complicated picture because I know a lot of the audience probably still thinks of it as an artsy town, and I wish it was. I think that is largely gone, but I think we are a fascinating. Look, I wish we were more diverse in terms of, race, but I do think it's I think sometimes people miss what that word means. I think we do have a diversity of opinion and thoughts, and that makes us really interesting. I mean, look, we are a mostly Democratic town, I think still 60-40, who continues to elect Republicans, and I support all of them. Jen Tooker's a friend. I don't hide the fact that I'm a huge supporter of hers and of Jim Marpy prior to her. So think about the diversity of thought here. Too many people think about diversity just in terms of our skin color, which is really unfortunate because what I value is different opinions from all over the spectrum, and I think we have that. But the other thing we have is resources that blow my mind. If people could, just go to Weston or Easton or, any similar sized town in America and then come here and think, oh my God, we have 6 grocery stores, 30 liquor stores, a downtown that I don't need to go to a mall. This library, this is incredible. I was just over at Levitt over the weekend. We have an incredible beach and schools. We have things that towns 10 times our size don't have. So those are the two things I think that define this town, the astounding amount of resources, things to do, and the diversity of thought.
And you didn't mention restaurants, and you're a big restaurant guy.
That is one of the things that I should have mentioned because I think the restaurants here are incredible. I think they're, dare I say, world class, and the variety we have. Now, the only thing I think we don't have is quick serve, and God bless Kava and Just Salad for coming to town. Little shout out there, because that I think we need more of is like quick serve restaurants, places for our teenagers, the staple students to eat. I don't think we have a lot of that, but boy, do we have an incredible amount of restaurants. Shout out to my favorite, Zuka, which is, I just think, such a great addition to this town. I truly love it.
Right in the middle of Saugatuck.
Yeah, and if I can mention one food item there, best pizza, I think, in Connecticut. Apologies to Sally's and Modern and Pepe's hot oil pie at Zuka. Dan, have you had it?
I have.
I think it is the best pizza in Connecticut.
You mentioned diversity, and your son's a soccer player. I was a soccer coach. 3 or 4 years ago, I was looking at our roster. We had 66 kids in our program, and 33, so exactly half, had at least one parent who was born outside the U.S. And it was everywhere. Vietnam, Israel, Egypt, Colombia, all over Europe. And there's that diversity that you don't necessarily see when you're just looking at someone.
That number astounds me. I am blown away by that. And I would love to see if that is replicated in football and basketball and girls soccer and girls tennis.
But you go by the beat, you walk down Campo Beach, you hear a ton of different languages.
Yeah, and I've talked about this with Craig Melvin, a good friend and the incredible, talented host of the Today Show. He moved here because he too wants to build the diversity, but at the same time, he also understands that it is diverse in its own way, and people really need to dig a little deeper to define that word. That being said, I think we could do a little better. It would be nice to have some more representation of the African-American community, but again, I think it's lazy to just say we are one thing here. And I do think a town like Darien is different than Westport in that regard. I think we are far more diverse than, say, New Canaan or Darien.
It's funny because whenever I talk to somebody, all the COVID people who moved here during the pandemic, and I say, what got you here? And whatever it is, they always say at some point, It's not Darien. It's not New Canaan. And
You hear
it's
that
just,
often.
and I'm sure there's people. And no offense to the Darien and New Canaan listeners, both of you, but I'm sure the people who live there moved there because it's not Westport.
Ooh, that's interesting. I have never spoken to people that moved there because it's not Westport. I think it is a bit closer in terms of a commute. I think
But nobody commutes 5 days a week.
that is true, and that is an astounding impact. I don't know if you've been to the train station on a Friday. That parking lot remains empty, but I will say people, Dan, have gone back to work, man. That train now on Monday through Thursday is as packed as it has ever been. That's not necessarily a great development for our town, but judging by the traffic out there, even right now, I think we're doing just fine. Darien's going to be fine too, though. I mean, what David Genovese has built in the Corbin district is incredible. Kudos to him. And we'll see if we can build something similar with the Hamlet, which I'm not entirely sure of at the moment. Sorry to transition there.
Talk about that. You mentioned the diversity, and there's certainly not socioeconomic diversity here. And when you're talking about the Hamlet, people always talk about also the need for affordable housing, and that's a huge issue.
It is, but I think we have to have some realizations here that, our schools have a certain capacity as well, and it is damn near full at the moment. So how do we expand affordable housing without impacting, I think, still the number one reason people move here, which is quality of education. That's the reason I chose this town over everything else, honestly, was the schools. And we should be very careful, because if we continue to expand affordable housing, I think we could impact that very reason. The other thing is the commute has gone up, 20 or 30 minutes since I've been here in 08. But that being said, look, I'm obviously a big supporter of the Hamlet. People know that. I take a lot of heat for that. I don't think they have focused enough on A, compromise with what the town wants and needs, and B, how it could make our lives better. I think it could help our tax bracket. I think it help our attractiveness. I think it gives us all something to do and rebuilds the waterfront. It gives us a chance to get the waterfront right. And the only way that we can, because we've got this parking lot right across the street from here at the library, and it's unfortunate. We can't undo the way Main Street was built. I wish we could. So I think Hamlet gives us a chance to do the waterfront right, albeit some major traffic and parking concerns.
You mentioned the people going back to work on the trains, but I think one of the reasons the traffic is pretty tough around here is that more and more people are working from home. So the
No
moms,
question.
the dads, they're around during the day. They go to the Y. They pick up their kids from school and take them to school. They go out for coffee. So instead of just rush hour, you've got people driving around town all day long.
Oh, it's astounding. I went to pick up a salad with my daughter yesterday, and the parking lot in this small restaurant was full, and I waited 5 minutes for a spot, and getting back onto Post Road took me about 5 minutes. People are definitely home more so than ever before, but I would guess our population has certainly grown a few percentage points since COVID, although there's not a whole lot of room for it to expand. But it feels busier in the middle of the day than at any point since I've lived here. But again, there's not a whole lot we can do about traffic. So don't really bother your leaders with that issue. It is what it is, to borrow a phrase from Bill Belichick.
Right. Start 5 minutes, leave the house 5 minutes earlier.
Yeah.
So we've talked about all the things Westport is, talked about the good things. You got the magic wand you can wave. What would you do to make Westport even better than what you see it as being now?
Uh-oh. So they are my dear friends. I would love to personally make some improvements over there at La Plage and at the Inn at Longshore. I have long been passionate about that place. You know this. It is I believe, potentially the crown jewel of Fairfield County. It's just not quite living up to it. And so that is number one on my list. I would love to add some quick serve restaurants, but Dan, I would love to curb the entitlement a little bit. One of the consequences of COVID is a lot of money has come to this town. And unfortunately, that comes with entitlement and people that have these unrealistic expectations. And part of that is on coaches and teachers and administrators. I have never been one to be a hands-on guy with coaches. I let them do their job, but I think I'm the exception. And we've seen this play out with the debacle at Staples with soccer and tennis. And so I wish I could wave that magic wand and make parents a little less entitled and trust their administrators. But at the same time, sorry to call them out, but I do believe that the athletic director at Staples and the superintendent of Westport schools have run amok and become entitled themselves and forgotten who they work for, which is ultimately the wonderful people of Westport. So that's a lot in that answer because both sides hold some blame. But I do think the AD, the principal, and Tom Screese could do a better job in remembering who they work for and listen. And some of that falls on the Board of Ed to hold them accountable. I'm just pissing off everybody right now. I'm in trouble.
That's your job.
That's kind of who I am.
I asked at the beginning, who is Dave Briggs? There's your answer. I'm Dave Briggs. I piss people off.
Well, yeah, and I guess I take equal opportunity shots at both sides of every equation.
But that's exactly how we started the discussion, which is
you're right.
We were talking about both sides, Fox, CNN, national politics.
And that's part of the reason I didn't fit at Fox nor CNN. I'm relieving Fox News because I was so tired of talking about the same story, which was Benghazi at the time. I don't know if people remember. That story was several years of coverage at Fox News. Donald Trump has worse scandals than that don't make it through the week, that don't make it through 24 hours.
That don't make it into the papers.
I mean, by that
cable.
Capacity, what he's done in stealing $300 million and selling access to the White House, in that vein, it deserves 10 years of coverage. But to the same token, I say this when I was at CNN, every day was Russia collusion. And Trump's kind of right about that. Like, Americans just want to know what's going on in the world and what impacts their lives. And I didn't fit that message either.
No MSNBC? They didn't come calling?
They did not, but I'm not closing any doors, but I've never got that call.
Dave Briggs, I said at the beginning I learned something from you all the time. I've learned a lot. What haven't I asked? Last question. What haven't I asked that I should have asked?
I guess what I hope to do with this, curiosity, storytelling, 10 years from now. And that's kind of what I'm focused on right now. And I think there's two things. I think one, I would like to use this for good, to have some impact, and that may be for a charity or helping lift up businesses and help them do what they don't know how to do, which is tell stories and communicate via social media and YouTube and things of that nature. So impact. If there's one word I want to have, impact. I do believe that there's something missing that covers the Gold Coast beyond Westport, connect Westport, Darien, Fairfield, because as local news has died and no one really pays attention to Fairfield County anyway, I think there's something to do to, again, lift up real estate, restaurant, retail, events, and maybe it's Dan and Dave, I don't know, but I do think there's a vehicle missing that Fairfield County desperately needs. So if anybody has thoughts on it, give me a call or give me an Instagram DM. I answer all those.
And they can find you at?
Yeah, I think the best way is probably on Instagram at Dave Briggs TV. Again, I will answer every DM, no matter whether it's negative or positive, but please subscribe to One Plug, the Sanity Podcast on YouTube. Just subscribe and like. And if you want to hear from anybody, shoot me a message. And Dan and I want to know where you think we should pop up live next. Again, that could be a restaurant, that could be retail, that could be an event, that could be an issue. We're all in, so communicate with us.
We've done 2 great ones already, the Hamlet, Old Mill Grocery and Deli. We're looking for a next project. Dave, this has been a fantastic half hour. I've learned a lot, and hopefully we've pissed off everybody who's watched.
That's the goal, man. I always enjoy every interaction with you, Dan, and always have. I think you are a local gem, man, and so I always am grateful for what you do here.
Right back at you. Thank you for being on the podcast, Dave Briggs. Talk to you soon.